The Toyota GR Yaris was one of the most hyped cars of its time when it went on sale back in 2020. Big power from that 3-cylinder engine, great all-wheel drive system, and this cool rally-inspired body. But a couple years on, Toyota has given it a pretty substantial makeover. New look on the outside, more power under the bonnet, new interior, as well as some changes under the skin that you can't see, but you can feel when you hit the road. So, is it worth the higher price? This video we're going to find out. Let's get started. For the first time, the Toyota GR Yaris is available with an 8-speed automatic transmission, due later this year to complement the 6-speed manual gearbox already in showrooms. There are two variants in the range, GT and GTS, which are the new names for the standard and rally editions respectively. Prices for 2025 start from $55,490 before on-road costs for the GT manual and $64,990 for the GTS manual, both up $4,100 on their predecessors. Add another $2,500 for the automatic option. Once on-road costs are added, the base GT manual is priced above $60,000 drive away in all but 2 states and territories, while a flagship GTS automatic pushes $70 grand. New equipment for 2025 includes a 12.3-inch widescreen digital instrument cluster, a larger 8-inch touchscreen running new software, previously 7-inch, and wireless and wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, rather than purely wired versions of these technologies. Powering the GR Yaris is a 1.6-litre turbocharged 3-cylinder petrol engine that now produces 221 kilowatts and 400 newton meters, up from 200 kilowatts and 370 newton meters in the previous model, driving all 4 wheels. Standard in the GT are 18-inch alloy wheels with Dunlop tyres, LED headlights, heated front sports seats, suede and synthetic leather look upholstery, a heated leather steering wheel, keyless entry and start, and a suite of advanced safety technology. The GTS adds forged 18-inch BBS wheels with Michelin tyres, front and rear Torsen limited slip differentials, a different suspension tune, additional cooling, an intercooler water spray function, red brake calipers, and red contrast interior highlights. Now the really big news with this GR Yaris facelift is the option of an automatic gearbox for the first time. That has meant some change to the styling to make that cooling package for that fit. You've got an automatic transmission cooler in behind this new front bumper, bigger air intakes in general for more cooling, also a bit better aerodynamics as well. The body shell is the same as before, so that cool sort of 3-door only style with a carbon roof as standard across the range. You can see, coming to the back, a lot of the changes have been back here. You've got a new top spoiler as well as new tail lights. That center rear brake light has actually moved down from the spoiler to the main brake lights, which means you can replace the spoiler more easily, something that Toyota found aftermarket customizers were doing with this car. Something also worth pointing out, some things Toyota has learned from rallying and motorsport with the GR Yaris over the last few years. One of those is with a front bumper. It can now be replaced in 3 sections, which means if you get a stone chip or get a rock or something through, say, this side of the bumper, or even down here, this plate is now steel rather than plastic, you can actually replace it more easily without having to do the entire bumper, which is pretty cool, and just shows you Toyota is learning from the way these cars are used and the way they're being driven in competition. Most of the time when car companies update a model, they normally do small changes here and there, a bigger screen, a new bumper, things like that, but Toyota has gone to town on the cabin of the GR Yaris, designed to fix some of the criticisms we had with the outgoing model. The main thing you notice, obviously, is this almost all new fascia around the driver. Obviously, it looks a bit blunt in photos. It looks a bit lazy, I'd say, in some terms, but sitting here in person, it actually kind of works. There's a bit of A80 late 90s Supra about it. And the benefit that's had is Toyota's lowered the height of this screen and raised this mirror, as well as dropping the seat to give you a much better view out the front of the car. You can now see pretty much all the way. There's no letterbox style vision that you got in the previous GR Yaris. And even though it does look a little bit polarizing in the photos, it does work in the metal of this new cabin. Things like your climate control, the touchscreen are now angled towards the driver, so you can reach them more easily while you're on the move. This screen is bigger than before, 8 inches rather than 7 inch in the old car. And it's got Toyota's new software, so wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Full digital dash in front of me as well. Not quite as cool perhaps as the old analog gauges, but still works well. Loads of customization between all the different drive modes in this car. The seats are lovely as before, mix of sort of leather and suede. Super comfortable, super supportive. Lovely small steering wheel here with a little GR badge on it as well. Good shifter, good place as well. It's not too low, not too high. Good spot there. The driving position is otherwise pretty good. Would like it to go a little bit lower, but the pedals are well spaced. It all does the job pretty well. Now, the rest of the cabin is fundamentally a Yaris, so it's a bit hard and scratchy around the place. You've got things like heated seats, heated steering wheel, USB ports on this new dash as well, but there's nowhere to really put your phone. You kind of notice it sits in the cup holders, perhaps back here, because there's no wireless phone charger tray or no real spot other than this area on the passenger side of the dash to stick your phone while you're driving, which is a bit of a shame. But overall, like the cabin, obviously it feels cheap in places, but this car is built for driving, and when you are driving, it does the job very well. Now, with only 2 doors for passengers, you probably weren't buying the GR Yaris as a family car, but still it is pretty cramped in the back here, as you can see. This driver's seat is set up for where I would drive. I'm 186 centimeters tall, or 6'1". My knees are in the back of this front seat. My head is jammed in the roof, and there is a bit of toe room, but yeah, it's not a particularly comfortable experience, so I suppose it's not really what a GR Yaris is for. Cabin width is okay, got a bit of storage down here as well as in the back, but yeah, no air vents, very dark, not a lot of room. So yeah, if you want to carry passengers in the back, best make sure they're on the shorter side. Much like the back seats, space in the boot is limited. The quoted capacity is only 174 litres, which is enough for a carry-on suitcase and a backpack or two, but not much else. The rear seats fold for more space, and there's a tyre repair kit under the floor in lieu of a spare wheel. Alright, behind the wheel of the updated Toyota GR Yaris. Now, the first thing you notice is obviously the changes to the interior and the visibility. You get a much better view at the windscreen, because obviously that screen is lower and your rearview mirror is higher up. The seat's a little bit lower too, though I would like it probably to go a little bit lower still, or at least their steering wheel to come up a bit more. I still feel like I'm sitting on top of the car rather than in it, but still, for the most part, it is a big improvement over the old car. There's no letterbox style feeling that you get through the windscreen like the previous model. Now, the rest of the package obviously has been improved. More power from the engine, now matches the GR Corolla in terms of power and torque, 220 kilowatts and 400 newton meters as well. Obviously, the old GR Yaris was definitely not a slow car, but this one is even quicker. This one here we're driving is the manual. The automatic will follow a little bit later. We have driven that car in the Corolla, or at least that transmission in the Corolla. I recommend checking out our video on the GR Corolla for a bit more on how the gearbox behaves, but both the manual and the auto are really good, and yeah, you can't really go wrong however you specify this car. Now, this manual we're driving right now has rev matching function, as it did in the previous car, so turn that on. Fourth gear now, downshift to third, perfect. Second, fantastic. Put your foot down. Definitely no shortage of grunt in this GR Yaris. It's a really quick car, 1,300 kilos or thereabouts for 220 kilowatts is a really good power to weight ratio, and yeah, definitely not left wanting for performance. Great mid-range surge from this engine, a bit of turbo blow-off valve as well to put a bit of a smile on your face, and yeah, love this engine as we did in the previous car. This manual gearbox is pretty good. The clutch point, you get to learn it after a few minutes behind the wheel. The gearbox is really notchy, really nice, great shift feel at least, short throw as well, so it does feel like a proper performance car in that regard. In terms of the rest of the package, steering as direct as ever. You get a choice of different modes. We found sport mode to be a little bit too heavy for our tastes, but regardless, it's direct, it's linear. There's a little bit of road feel. It's not the most feelsome in terms of steering, but it is pretty good, and yeah, not too many complaints in that area of the ride. Obviously, this car is smaller than the Corolla. It shares a lot with, so it is a little bit jumpier over bumps, but still it's pretty compliant, pretty composed. It is firm. It's a performance car after all, but I don't think this is too firm to live with. It's just supple enough to live with day to day, though obviously keen to get it on home roads and hit sort of city bumps in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane to see how this car performs in the daily grind. But obviously, three-door car is probably not quite the family-focused option it might be compared to the GR Corolla, but still more than livable enough for daily duties. Now, there have been some changes to the all-wheel drive system for 2025. Now, rather than the modes you had before, which were normal, 60 front, 40 rear, sport, 30 front, 70 rear, and track, which was a 50-50 symmetrical, you now get normal, unchanged, gravel, which is 53 to the front and 47 to the rear, and then a track mode, which is actually a variable all-wheel drive. So it can send up to 70% of the power to the rear, and basically vary the power between front and rear to give you, obviously, what gives you the best performance in a racetrack environment. So it's maybe not quite as playful as the old car might have been when you locked it in sport mode, but it's composed. You've got to be pushing really hard in this GTS model to get this car to understeer and to get it unstuck. The Michelin tyres here have loads of grip. The limited slip diffs bite really well. We haven't driven the base model GT on this launch drive, at least on the road, but this GTS model, obviously you pay more, but you do get more for your money. Those diffs, as I mentioned, forged wheels, Michelin tyres, are better than the Dunlops in the base car from our past experience. As well as some little things like an intercooler spray, some extra ducting, some extra cooling if you plan on doing some more track driving with this car. And overall, look, the changes to the GR Yaris have only made what was already a really good car even better. More power, option of an automatic coming in the next couple of months, better visibility out the car, and yeah, overall big fans of the way this car drives, and still one of our favourite little hot hatches if you don't need the 5-door practicality of the larger GR Corolla. We expected to have to wait until mid-year to try the automatic GR Yaris, but after what you just saw was filmed, we took it for a few laps around Victoria's Winton Raceway. The 8-speed torque converter auto is not quite as quick to shift as a dual clutch auto from an i30N or a Golf R, but it's not too far off, and does not feel out of place in this car. We left it to its own devices most of the time and rarely found ourselves butting head with its choice of gear, so a big tick there. In GTS guys, the Yaris is a confidence-inspiring track car, with an expert mode that dials back the level of stability control intervention to let you have a bit of fun with it, but still keeps a safety net for novices. There wasn't much wrong with the old GR Yaris, but it's clear Toyota has listened to and addressed criticisms of the outgoing model, while taking its best attributes to the next level. We love the more powerful engine, new automatic gearbox, more user-friendly interior with better visibility and technology, and the same sharp handling and rally car for the road feel that made the old model great. Nothing comes for free though, and 60 grand drive away for the cheapest model may be a hard sell for some buyers, particularly how compact the cabin can feel. But few rivals can match the GR Yaris for how special and purposeful it feels, and for that reason we'd be happy to park one in our driveway. If you enjoyed this video, chuck us a like, and of course to read the full written review head to Drive.com.au in the link in the description down below.